Do you ever have problems going to hit record and you start talking, and then while you're talking, you start thinking about a bunch of other random stories and you wonder, should I include that, not include that? Wait, what was I saying? And what was the point I was trying to make? You ever lose your train of thought while you're recording a podcast episode or a video for that matter? Well, that's okay. You're not alone. And I do have a solution for you. So let's get right to it. Hey y'all, Crystal here today, and we had another fantastic question come through that I just want to read here for you today. It says, hey Crystal, I was wondering, how do you get past word vomiting while recording? I usually have a mental outline, but struggle to keep my train of thought. Any advice? So I responded quickly back. So first of all, Holistic Hebrew, thank you so much for your question. And that's what I said. I responded like, oh, this is a great question. This will be an upcoming video. But my advice to you is to use a heavier script when you're recording to stay on track, more than just 1 to 3 bullet points. And then learn how to rein yourself in when you find yourself start mindlessly wandering into storytelling. It does take time to develop the skills, but you can absolutely do it. So that was my quick 30-second solution for anyone that's struggling with losing their train of thought. But one of the key words that I wanted to point out in his question was, I usually have a mental outline. So this is going to be an ego check for a lot of people, but just come on, sit down. We're in a therapy session now, okay? Because I want to tell you that having a mental outline isn't good enough. It is not. It is the year that we are all going to say, I will have notes when I go to record my podcast. And the reason why I say that is because it's what all the pros do. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm not saying I'm amazing. You should do exactly what I do. But I'm telling you, I have watched and listened to hours, years of my life. Okay, let's just call it what it is. I've been listening to podcasts for so long. It's literally years of my life at this point that I've been listening and consuming so many different types of podcasters, from business to comedy to educational to, all these different genres of podcast. And the one thing that the really successful ones have in common, they have some sort of outline, and it's not mental. Whether they have it on a computer screen, they're reading it on their iPad, or they literally have a notebook in front of them. They wrote it all down. They have something that they are using to guide them through the podcast episode or the interview, whatever the type of format they're using. There is something guiding them. And this is really important because when you say I'm word vomiting, or I'm getting lost in storytelling, have this wandering through what I'm trying to say, or maybe you lose your train of thought altogether, it's because you don't have a guide. You absolutely need a guide for your episode, because if you feel lost, let's think about this for a second. If you feel lost when you're recording, how do you think your listener is going to feel listening to your episode? It's kind of hard to think about, right? I hate the thought of someone listening to my podcast and turning it off because they're like, she made absolutely no sense. I can't follow this. I'm just going to go find something else. And they never come back. That's really, really hard, because I can tell you, I have helped hundreds of podcasters, thousands of podcasters at this point, and they may have had bad audio in the beginning or said a little too many ums for their liking, but people don't turn an episode off because of those things. But they will turn you off real fast if you have no point to your story, if there's no rhyme or reason why you're recording, you're literally just talking into a microphone and it's nonsense. They're gonna stop listening and they're probably not gonna come back. And that hurts. That hurts my podcast coach heart. So let me share some things that you can do to keep this from happening. So number one, I already shared with you, you need to have an outline. It needs to be written down. Again, it could be in a Google Doc. You could use ASANA. You could use an old school notebook and piece of paper. You could put it on a Post-it note for all I care, or the back of a receipt. It doesn't have to be something that's super fancy or high tech, but you need to have an outline. The next thing, the second tip that I have for you, I actually learned from my speaking coach, Heather Sager. So shout out, you should go listen to her podcast. It's called The Hint of Hustle. And what she says, the term word vomiting, the first time I ever heard it was from her, but she said, we need to practice speaking out loud. It is the thing that will help you become a more confident and better speaker, but you have to say words out loud, because what you think of in your mind is typically not just in words. It's in pictures, it's in like a video playback in your head, it's in memories, like all the things that you're thinking about in your head is typically not what comes out of your mouth when you go to speak. And so in order to have this confidence behind your episodes when you're recording, you need to have that practice of just speaking out loud. And I can give you my tips and you're gonna think it's a little weird, but I don't care. You know, you're here, you're watching at this point this far because you've accepted my weirdness, and I so appreciate that. I would actually love it if you would give me a like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video and all of its weirdness. But one of the things that I did or started doing, because I said, I'm going to be a better speaker, I'm going to be a better podcaster. The first thing is I started recording myself on walks. So I would take walks around the neighborhood and turn on the voice memos app on my phone and just start recording. And sometimes it was just me talking out loud and saying things. It's kind of like when Elf is like, I'm in a store and I'm singing. I'm in a store and I'm singing. I know I have a terrible singing voice, but it's okay. I'm just giving you an example. So I want you to use the voice memo app on your phone to start recording yourself. Another thing is, if you live alone or you don't, like this can get a little weird, but again, we're here for the weirdness. You can record in your bathroom while you're getting ready or in the shower. You can talk through what you want to say in an upcoming episode. So maybe after you plan your outline, you walk away from it and you still have those thoughts and ideas in your head. Start practicing what you're going to say or how you're going to say it once you've planned it out. That way, when you sit down to record something, it's not the first time you're actually saying it out loud. Maybe it's the third or fourth time, or maybe it's the 20th time that you're saying it out loud. But that skill of building up and being able to take those thoughts that you have and the outline to guide you, you will have a much better result when you sit down to record, and it will be so much less frustrating. There's nothing like, especially if you're watching this and you edit your own podcast, sitting down and listening back. Like maybe you had some time away. You recorded the thing and it's been a few days, maybe even a few weeks since you recorded it. And whenever you first hit stop, you're like, that was a really good episode. And then you sit down, you grab your headphones. Oh, look, my headphones right here. So you grab your headphones, I'm smacking things around. You put them on. And you go back to listen to it and you're like, this is awful. What am I even talking about? Like none of this is even, I didn't even talk about the thing that I said I was going to talk about, that I wrote about, that I told my audience I was going to talk about. Like what is even happening? So I don't want that happening to you. I want you to have an outline. I want you to figure out the main topic that you're going to speak about and start doing that word vomiting and speaking out loud before you hit record. But I will give you one last tip. This is my third tip, right? So we're going to have an outline. We're going to start recording ourselves. Well, I guess this is my fourth tip, because the third one is like talking to yourself when you're getting ready, you're in the shower. So my fourth tip would be for you to record whenever you sit down at your podcast, like whether you have like a whole studio, you have a full setup, or it's just a handheld microphone that you're recording, or you're just recording on your phone. I want you to record something and then delete it. Yeah, I said it. I want you to record whatever you're going to record and then delete it. Just because you record something doesn't mean you have to publish it. So if you listen back to it and you're like, oh, this is terrible, it's going to take me hours to edit this thing, sometimes it's better to just scrap the whole thing and start over. I know whenever I was first getting started, I would record stuff and think, that just doesn't sound right. So I would stop, I would delete part of it, and then I would say, okay, like I got this, I'm going to do it again. Or if you don't want to mess with going back and deleting it, then just stop talking for a few seconds. And then you will know, you'll have the waveform that tells you when you stopped talking, and you will be able to go back and edit a lot easier. So if you do lose your train of thought, then have that space in your audio recording so you can go back and edit it a lot easier. But great question. You are not the first one to ask this, and I know you won't be the last. So I'm so happy that you asked this question so you can help more podcasters in the community. But if you have a question and you want to be featured in a future video, put it in the comments below. I would love to answer your question. But that's all I have for you today. So make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video if you found it helpful. Subscribe below. That way you don't miss our future videos about podcasting, content strategy, content marketing, and most importantly, creating with confidence. And make sure you check out these other videos right here. And as always, remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere.